Story 1. I had a friend tell me on New Year's we were quitting together. We both had one last smoke and threw out our cigarettes. The next morning, he grabbed another pack from his car and said, "I was just joking, dude." I basically said, "Screw you. I just threw out a whole pack of cigarettes. I quit almost cold turkey." Story 2. I got tired of lying to people who actually cared. The addiction was not worth the shame anymore. Story 3. I wanted to show my sons that a man did not need alcohol to have fun or love life. I wanted to show my wife that she married a man who would rather taste her instead of a bottle. I wanted to show myself that I was not going to be another drunk black dad who checks out on his family. In essence, I wanted to be better, so I got rid of all alcohol in my life. Story 4. I am an alcoholic. I woke up this morning with yellow eyes. I have had a few wake-up calls, but I am hoping this will be the one that makes me quit for good. Story 5. Pornography and masturbation made me personally feel lonely, and the feeling only compounded with time. I had a moment of clear realization that hit like a truck, which pushed me to decide to quit. Story 6. I have already overcome some addictions, such as marijuana and cigarettes. Those are easy compared to my worst addiction, opioids. That is a completely different challenge. Story 7. So far, nothing. I am dealing with my addiction, and I feel quite poorly today. I used to make a lot of music sober, and that helped. It helps pay the bills at least. But yes, this situation is difficult. People without addiction will never understand counting the minutes until you can get your next fix. Or for me, until the store opens for alcohol. And that is good. I am not saying that I know better. The fewer people who understand that feeling, the better. Wish me luck. Story 8. I was a regular cigarette smoker, but then I became a father. I wanted to set a good example for my children. Additionally, cancer from smoking killed my beloved grandfather, and I know he wants me to do better than he did. Story 9. Alcoholic, 1.75 liters every other day approximately. Did not want to die, really. Diabetes and liver issues are major concerns according to my doctor. Seizures were not enjoyable either. Sober for about a year and a half. Story 10. Quitting was not the solution. Realizing it was myself who needed to grow up changed everything. The addiction, weed, pornography, alcohol, sugar, Instagram reels was not the enemy. It was the signal. A flare from my subconscious that something in my life was too painful, too heavy, or too empty to face while sober. I did not quit the addiction. I stopped being afraid of what I was running from. For a long time, I tried to struggle through it with sheer willpower. I counted sober days like merit badges and told myself I was strong for resisting the urge. But the urge was still there, pulling at me every day. Had I really changed? Or was I just playing hide and seek with my pain? Everything shifted when I stopped trying to escape my anxiety and anger and started taking responsibility for them. When I confronted the discomfort, the boredom, the resentment, and the sadness, and stopped seeing them as threats, I began treating them as clues. That is when I stopped being the boy trying to soothe himself and became the man willing to take responsibility for his inner world. I did not quit my addiction. I became someone who did not need it anymore. And that made all the difference. Story 11. I was addicted to social media. When I realized how depressed I had become and how it was getting worse because of social media, it made me dislike it so much that it felt as though I were allergic to it. Story 12. Obtaining insurance and beginning proper medical treatment instead of managing my mental illness through addiction. Story 13. Realizing that I kept choosing temporary comfort over long-term peace. The highs were not worth the self-loathing that followed. Quitting gave me my self-respect back. Story 14. Dealing with the root cause of my stress helped me understand that I only engaged in my addiction as a distraction from the underlying issue causing my stress. Story 15. Where I was living, smoking was banned, and I did not feel that continuing was worth the hassle. By that time, I was ready to quit. I had made attempts in the past, but they were half-hearted at best. This last time, I felt I was truly prepared. It has been 8 years since April. Story 16. My younger sibling said, "I miss the old you." That one sentence hit harder than any consequence I had faced. I did not want to be a ghost in their childhood memories. Story 17. Took the children to the beach. The next day, we were looking at pictures and one of them said, "Look how fat Dad is." I said goodbye to drinking daily and have lost 30 pounds. I still have a few drinks on weekends, so technically I did not quit, but I have a much healthier relationship with alcohol. Story 18. Drinking. I had a drinking buddy, and we drank heavily a couple of times a week. We went to a bachelor party for a really close friend, and I realized that for this drinking buddy, it wasn't about the event. It was just another excuse to drink. I left after 3 beers and phoned my mom. I apologized for what I put her through and told her I see it for what it is now. I didn't touch alcohol for a whole year. Now I rarely drink, never get drunk, and have the willpower to call it a night after 1 or 2 drinks. Story 19. Not anything yet, currently in it. I have only been able to stay off for 7 days maximum due to a willpower, B, horrible cravings and withdrawals, and C, running out of my prescription. Story 20. I didn't quit. That is why it is called an addiction. I spent much of my life trying to quit, and now I just try to learn to live with it as best I can and be the most functional human possible. This is the reality for many people with addiction. Story 21. After about 7 to 8 years of vaping, I quit out of spite towards the nicotine industry. I didn't like living feeling like I was on their leash, which in hindsight I was. There is also the shame of paying money to inhale unknown chemicals and the stress of it being 9 p.m. when your vape runs out, forcing you to either go back out or, even worse, to wait. It's just an unhealthy lifestyle to be controlled by. It took about 3 attempts to actually quit. I would go a few months without vaping, then buy another vape. My first thought after using it again was always, this does nothing. Why did I even do this? But by that point, I would be pulled back in. I'm out for good now, though. Story 22. Becoming homeless made me quit. I did not become homeless because of addiction, but I knew I would not be taken seriously and would not get the help I desperately needed. Story 23. I was an on and off closet alcoholic from about age 18 until 28. I've had probably 100 last drinks. My partner, after catching me yet again, gave an ultimatum that they would leave if they found any more alcohol in the house. I started attending Alcoholics Anonymous a few weeks later and have had a sober streak since last December. Now, I need to quit nicotine soon. I couldn't quit both at the same time. I told myself I would stop drinking first, then a year later give up nicotine. I still smoke a lot of cannabis, though. Somehow, with my addictive personality, thanks to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, cannabis is not really a problem. Story 24. When I noticed 4 hours of phone use each day for mindless doom scrolling, I reduced my phone use to 2 hours. I still have a way to go. Story 25. After a year of multiple times per day use of fentanyl, I decided I was done with it all. Done with calling, waiting, paying, being high and useless, and being a slave to a substance. 2 years clean as of July 5th. Do I miss it? Hell no, not one bit. For me, not judging anyone else, it came down to a choice and being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Story 26. What made me quiet? Realizing that my future was worth more than a temporary escape. I chose peace over chaos, growth over guilt, and every day since has felt like freedom. Story 27. I quit drinking because I was a heavy binge drinker and always wanted to party. I tried a few times to just have a couple of drinks, but it always turned into drinking everything in sight. This affected my ability to be present on weekends with my wife and child. Using marijuana made me feel like a zombie for a long time after drinking. It seemed to happen gradually, but eventually I was stoned anytime I was not at work. I did not like this version of myself, so I quit. You don't realize what substances do to you until you stop using them for a significant amount of time. Story 28. Traded smoking for a vaporizer and weaning myself off nicotine because the cost was not worth what it was actually doing for me. I also figured my crush at the time would not be interested in a smoker and realized I was narrowing my already small potential dating pool by doing so. Story 29. I had a cigarette addiction that really started upsetting me when I began training in martial arts. I was almost out of breath after just a minute of bag work, and that made me feel very weak. That was when I decided I had to quit, and I did. Story 30. I quit cannabis cold turkey after 10 years. I tried many times previously but would resume after about a month. I wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need it permanently and that I wasn't weak or dependent on it. On November 13th, 2023, I threw away all my cannabis and stopped completely. The first week I had tinnitus and then I took it 1 month at a time. The online support community also helped motivate me. Now I have no craving or desire for it. Story 31. Just got tired of it. High for 4 hours, practically dead for the other 20. That is no way to live. Story 32. I woke up every morning with the worst stomach ache and was always having digestive issues. I cut out gluten and made many changes to my diet. Turned out the cause was nicotine. Story 33. Incompatibility between my goals and what I could achieve when I was intoxicated is the real answer. But seeing friends turn into something I did not want to become also helped push me in the right direction. Story 34. The possibility of being homeless or in jail. I saw the end of the road and I veered just before. It is sad it had to go that far, but I have been clean for over 10 years now. Story 35. A magic mushroom experience. In the couple of days after the experience, I quit nicotine. I was not planning on doing it. It just happened. This was 18 months ago, after 26 years of addiction. Story 36. I know I'll probably get some criticism because I'm going to say, I wasn't addicted then and I'm not now. But I had a really traumatic year between ages 33 and 34. My then girlfriend was struggling with addiction at the time. I got her into rehab and fell apart. We had been together for 8 years, and I just didn't know what was next for her, which scared me a lot. 6 weeks later, I got very drunk with my best friend for my birthday. I fell asleep in the chair and woke up vomiting. It was really unpleasant. I partially resolved then to reduce my drinking. I did not find out until several years later that my girlfriend graduated from rehab 2 days before my birthday. Since that day, I have rarely had more than 3 nights of drinking in a week, except around Christmas and New Year's. Mostly it is just 2 nights, but I am drinking nowhere near the volume I was before. A 6-pack that once lasted maybe 2 hours now lasts 2 weeks. Story 37. Having a hard time breathing. Quit smoking after 25 years. No vaping back then. I used nicotine gum. Story 38. You do not quit your addiction, meaning you are still addicted to it even when you are sober. If you were not addicted anymore, you would be able to use that substance responsibly now. They cannot. Story 39. Illness. Had a stomach flu and spent a day or 2 vomiting. Could not possibly tolerate any ZYN nicotine pouches, so did not use any. Got better, but still did not return to using the pouches. It has been a year now. This was after 35 years of smoking, 5 years of vaping, and 2 years of using ZYN nicotine pouches. I was a nicotine addict for most of my life. It took a very long time to quit cigarettes and switch to vaping, and by the time I started using the pouches, I was just clinging to nicotine itself, not the act, taste, ritual, or head rush of smoking. After all those decades, it seemed surprisingly easy to quit after one simple stomach illness. I had been sick as a smoker hundreds of times, but somehow managed to smoke through it. If I had not had that flu, I would probably still be using them. Story 40. For me, it is currently not wanting to actually harm myself. I know that the old coping mechanism does not help in this situation. I do not care about how it affects those who care about me. They should not care anyway. I did not ask for it, so their care does not matter, and any help is usually just patronizing. Even if the person is not patronizing, the act of helping someone is. Story 41. I was really hungover one day and could not smoke cigarettes without feeling sick. I felt fine the next day but decided to see how long I could last. Now I have been cigarette-free for 2 years after smoking for 10 years. Story 42. I quit smoking and drinking on the same day because I could not be bothered to walk to Tesco and buy some. That was 20 years ago. Story 43. I quit smoking marijuana because, in addition to many other mental health issues, it was turning me into an unpleasant person and damaging my relationship with my wife. I was starting fights over the smallest reasons, taking things too personally, and overthinking every little detail. I still remember the last argument we had. It wasn't really an argument. I was just being difficult. She was feeling very down before her menstrual period, and I took her mood personally, and left the house angrily on a Saturday morning in September. Because of our work schedules, we only really see each other on weekends, and Saturday mornings are our special time to drink coffee together on the couch. When I got home, she was in the bathtub crying, and I knew that if I continued like this, she would stop loving me. I understood what was causing my behavior, and that was the last day I smoked marijuana. She often says how much nicer I am when I don't smoke. Story 44. I used to use chewing tobacco. My teeth started to hurt when I stopped using it, and I saw that as a serious problem, so I quit. Story 45. A combination of contempt and the gum. I started with the gum and switched to Dentine Ice when I ran out. I was also dating a narcissist who made my smoking all about her. Realizing that I would never hear the end of the self-centered proselytizing, the me, made me so angry that I couldn't bring myself to do it. I have been cigarette-free since 2013 and mostly tobacco-free since then despite 2 slip-ups in 2020. Story 46. It scares me that so few people mention gambling. As someone who struggles with this, it worries me that it is one of the hardest addictions to overcome. Story 47. Ketamine. I walked over to my nicotine pouches and dumped them out. I struggled to quit nicotine for years. Tobacco, vapes, then pouches. When I came out of that high, I had zero desire to consume nicotine anymore. It has been 2 weeks, and I still have no cravings. This is a wild reality compared to when I tried to quit dozens of times in the past. Story 48. I am entirely too late to comment on this, but I am proud of quitting, so I will do it anyway. I got tired of planning my life around nicotine. About 2 weeks after quitting, my Apple Watch told me that my average heart rate had dropped, and I knew there was no way I was going back to that again. Story 49. Second, driving under the influence and the burden it is putting on my family. Legal and lawyer fees have put me into debt. I have had to liquidate accounts and investments, and I am still in debt. I am going to lose my license and will have to spend some time in jail. My family is covering my portion of rent and utilities, and they will soon have to drive me to and from work, assuming I find a job since I was fired because of the driving under the influence. I am almost 2 weeks sober and have noticed an incredible change in my energy and productivity. I feel more present in life and am less prone to getting angry over little things. As much as everything sucks, the silver lining is that I do not think I would have gotten sober without what happened. If you are struggling with alcohol, get some help. Give yourself time to get through the withdrawal, and from there it gets much easier. Psychiatrists can provide medication to help with cravings. Alcoholism is a disease that will slowly destroy your life and your body. I have found that people in Alcoholics Anonymous are extremely nice, and I always end up leaving in a good mood. Take it one day at a time. Story 50. 6 months in New Zealand jail, I was able to give up smoking because it is forbidden. When I got out, I began vaping. It was a more than 10-year habit. I had no chance whatsoever of giving up beforehand. Story 51. I still drink, but when I was drinking and vomiting, there was one Christmas after Christmas Eve when I could barely join my family in opening presents. I vomited in the bathroom but managed to act normal when it was time to sit down with everyone and open presents. People thought I was high on weed because of how bad and hungover I felt. After everything was done, I went to my room to sleep more and vomited all over my floor, off my bed. Now, I know my limits and haven't vomited from anything since that day years ago. I like drinking, but now I don't drink to excess. I can't prioritize alcohol over spending Christmas or any time with family because you never know if it's their last or yours. Story 52. Basically, I came to a point where I had to make a choice. Either lose all my money and become homeless, probably losing my cat in the process because I have never seen a homeless person with a cat and I could not keep him on a leash, go to an addiction center and have to trust someone with my cat, or go cold turkey and keep my home and my cat. Story 53. I quit drinking when I met my husband and we turned to Jesus. What made me actually quit was feeling unconditionally loved for the first time in my life by God and by my husband. It showed me that I was worth something and that I should be kinder to myself. God's love cures everything. Even if the whole world hates you, God still loves you. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.